Hey, everybody. Great to talk to you today, May 5th, 2023. And I want to get right to it because I think this is a really, really important topic. We labeled it the power of vulnerability and how showing your flaws can make you a better leader. Let me start this way. I want to talk to you a little bit about, certainly I'm going to talk to you about my experience and different degrees of vulnerability, but I am not actually sure the term that we use today in the world, vulnerability or vulnerable, is exactly the right word. The definition of vulnerability is the quality of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed physically or emotionally. So, is that what we're talking about today? Are we talking about the risk of being attacked or harmed? Well, to some degree, I suppose we are. Or are we talking about transparency? Transparency is defined as readily understood, free from pretense or deceit. So I think I think that what we're really talking about is how, as a leader, can you be free from pretense or deceit with the risk of opening yourself up, of course, to being attacked? Now, is the point me trying not to be attacked for me, or is the point of that for the organization? And it's obvious the answer is it's not for me. A leadership position in a company is simply another position in a company. It's another seat to sit in. So let's talk about me a little bit, and let me talk about how I perceive leadership, how I perceive the sharing of information, being transparent, and where I think it may open up your being vulnerable, and what the potential for success is and what the risks are to them. So look, for me, the key, I think, to everything I do at work and certainly in my personal life is frankly it's the same. Whether I'm living personal or living professional, my goal is always really to be me, to be Steve, so that people know me. You have to understand that the idea of being in my position is not about charisma. It's not about how great I'm going to be in any moment. It's simply about fulfilling what people need me to do. So, as a manager, what do? I have to make sure that I have an organization that is working in a certain way that works, that it just works. And as a manager, my job in my position as a CEO is to make sure that my management team is the right management team. They understand what my vision is and what the corporate approach is to that vision. And then they go about their work. And so, where do I transition from management to leadership is in the recognition that giving people a task is not really enough, right? So what I need to do is I need to be able to help people remove the obstacles that are in their way. In removing those obstacles, it's really teaching people that many of those obstacles are things they have to come to terms with. They have to open up about. They have to be transparent, which again leads them to being vulnerable. Because if they can't be transparent, if my head of sales who is having a problem in getting leads or getting sales or working with people or just the administration of what's going on, if that person can't be open about what their problems are, which risks them in terms of showing me they're vulnerable, then I can't help them by removing obstacles. And remember, every position in a company requires management and it requires leadership. So it isn't just me. But I have to be the one that sets an example that it's safe to be transparent and it's okay to be vulnerable and we will survive. I believe people want to know who you are, and I believe people don't need to know everything you are. So, as an example, my family today is going through some serious health issues. In that regard, to what degree do I share what I'm going through with my group of people? Well, look, I think it's fair that people understand that there's a period in my life that has an impact on my behavior. I may not be as jovial. I certainly won't have the same charisma that I would have in other times or certain situations. I may not be on point. I may be forgetful. And so it's important for people to understand that, hey, Steve's going through something serious. Now, at the same time, do I need to share every piece of what I'm going through? And I say, no, I don't. Not whether I want to or not, in my position, that's not important. But it is important that people understand where I'm coming from and how my personality may be affected or my on point approach to my work may be affected. All right. Is that being transparent? Is that opening me up from a vulnerability perspective? Where does that sit? And does it even have a place in business? Should I completely not talk about that at all? Look, people need to understand that my position, it's not the Wizard of Oz, right? I'm not hiding behind a shroud where people don't get to see and know me. But they need to see that although there are moments where I'm vulnerable, although that happens, I still can lead. I still can do this podcast. I still can help give direction when it's requested of me. I still can do the most important thing in my position, and that is removing obstacles for people so they can blossom. They can do the best of what they are doing. Let me give you some examples from my past, and you can make your own decision whether it was valuable or not valuable. The pandemic, 2020, we all faced it. At the moment in time when we realize that this is an ongoing thing and that we don't have an end date to it, it required almost every business to make difficult choices. And those choices not only affected the strategy, they affected the approach, they affected every dynamic in a company, they affected the individual people in that company who were powerless, by the way, to make decisions. So they were relying on me to come to them with decisions that had been made and how that may impact them. So here's what we did in our case. We actually went across the board and asked people to reduce their salaries by 10%. That was the action that we requested through the year 2020, and then gave them the return on that investment of theirs promised at a certain point in time. So they would regain it. But what we also did is we gave them a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week. We gave them shortened time on the job. We did things to kind of give them even in the short-term benefits. But look, that is a hard decision because no matter what was going on in the world, people's bills were the same. So they were still facing something less in terms of the reason they were going to work for their paycheck. And that's a hard message for them to give to their families. It's hard all the way around. So that's the ask that we had. So to what degree do I share why I'm doing that? To me, the sharing had to be really open. It had to be transparent. And so I explained what I was seeing. I said, look, we're in a business where within the first month of this business, we're seeing a decline in our business, which means less money coming in. And let me show you that. Let me show you our activity. Let me show you the reduction that it affects revenue. Let me also explain something else. It slows down our incoming money because people are slowing down how they pay us. So if they were a net 30, many people are going to a net 60. Many people are just holding off and not paying. I mean, there's a whole relationship that we're having with the world that affects the money that we have. Now, let me also be honest with you and show you how we're doing financially holistically. We have money in the bank. We've never lost money as a company. We have made money. And even in this moment, I believe we can still make money. What I don't know is what I'm trying to protect for all of us. And I don't know how long this is going to last. So is this a never-ending story? Is it how long can we go with reduced activity, with reduced collections, with reduced everything? So because I don't know that, my goal, my job as a leader of this company, or at least the CEO as a manager, is to do my best to protect us for the longest period of time. And that means in the moment, I can't do that alone. I can't pretend there's not a problem and give you the outcome you hope for, which is no change to you. So my trade to you is I'm extending the path that we have for the road that we don't know when it ends, as long as is possible. In this, I'm going to give you our abilities every month. I'm going to tell you where we stand, and I'm going to show you our activity. In that, we had monthly meetings, we shared our numbers, we shared our activity, and our strategies. Some of those strategies were about how we're going to continue to market, because we believe that when this does end, we don't want to start at zero. We want to have continued to brand ourselves. We want to have continued to approach our business as a viable business. And at some point, we're still going to be in front of the faces of our customer. All right, that's what we did. I shared a true experience of how we dealt with it. And I gave you what I anticipated was an outcome. And 2021 came, we repaid our employees, and here's what we did. We continued to share the information that we had and trusted that when people understood the depth of the strategies that we were doing and how we needed each group to implement and how their groups implementing something affected other groups, the standard SOPs between each group, that would be of a benefit, and that we could use what we learned in that very difficult moment where we used our transparency and opened us up to being vulnerable. We want to get something for it, and that was the benefits that we learned from it. So we took a very difficult thing and we turned it into something, I think, very positive. I faced another issue years ago, 20 years ago in my business. I was building a business that had huge debt. I took it over early, but from day one, it had debt. And I've told this story in other of our meetings. Well, it was incredibly painful. And at one point in time, our controller quit. And I depended on our controller. And she quit because she said, I don't know how you do this. This is too stressful. This is painful. I don't think you're going to survive. And I can't emotionally handle this. So when she left, we began to bring people in and for interviews. And as we began to talk to those people, we shared absolutely everything about our condition. One after the next said, yeah, I like you. You look good. I do see the growth that you're having, but no, I don't want anything. And we couldn't get a commitment from anyone. Now, I wasn't doing the interviewing. All of this was happening from our HR department because people weren't even getting past HR. So I said, let me do some interviewing. And when I went in, I told the next candidates, here's what we're facing. Here's why I think we're viable. Here's the struggle that we face every day. Here's the strategy behind it. And here are the risks that go with it. And here's the benefits I think could be yours. And here's what could happen in the worst case. Very quickly, we found a controller. Very quickly, that controller came in with ideas and approaches that benefited us and helped us manage our monies and helped move us to the incredibly successful company that we became. But what did that require? It didn't require a standardized approach. It required openness, honesty, and explanation. So those are really the things that a leader can do, is be open in the context of how it affects other people. I can, as a reminder and in summary, I can tell people I'm going through something personal, and here's how I think it's going to affect me. I don't want to tell people things so they feel sorry for me. I don't want to tell people things so they forgive bad behavior. I just want people to understand that I'm a human being, and as that works, we all have these moments. So what could be the outcome of that is that other people in the organization who have their personal problems may bring them to light within their groups and their manager, and find that they have a willing group and that they don't have to be scared to be open and honest. So look, here's the thing we learn, and it's the simplest thing, and it's the hardest to pull off, I think. It's probably easier for me after decades of doing this, just because I have the experience that it hasn't been risky and damaging. It's just be who you are. Recognize you have a role to play. And within that role, it doesn't require opening everything up about you. It just requires you to be the human being that you are and discuss with people what we face that is common amongst us and how to live with it. So look, I wish I could give you deeper advice. I find that most things in business are not complicated. Most things in business are pretty straightforward if you stick to who you are as a human being. Of course, you want to study. There is a craft to business. Learn your craft. That's a learning thing. Learn the vocation of your business. But at the same time, when you go to implement your business, when you speak to a group, when I'm speaking on a podcast, when I'm doing anything with anybody in the meetings that will come up after this podcast today, be yourself. Trust yourself. You're good, or you wouldn't have been in that position in the first place. So with that, I'm going to let you go. I think the next time we meet, it's going to be a very, very cool podcast. We're going to be talking about how we empower our people and kind of step back to let them have the roadmap for what needs to be done. Yeah, I think it's going to be cool. I'll look forward to talking to you then. Take care.